All right. Welcome, everyone. Whoever's tuned in, this is going to be recorded as well. So I'm sure people can tune in down the line. But welcome to the first in our series of Life by Design interviews. The aim and the purpose of this series is to speak with experts in the core and most important aspects of life, to get them to share their tips and strategies with people, and through this interview, and as a result of those tips and strategies, people being able to implement them and thrive in their life and live a life by design, not by default. So, and the first person who's going to be interviewed today is, apart from being a very dear friend of mine, I feel humbled to know this man. But let me tell you a little bit more about him. Ron Malhotra is with us today. Ron is a very unique wealth specialist because apart from being a financial advisor, he's also a renowned international speaker. He is a qualified mindset and success coach. And also one of the reasons I know him is he is a best-selling author, and he's written a number of books. And I'm sure Ron's going to be telling you a little bit more about each one of these aspects of his life. So welcome, Ron.
It's awesome to be here. I actually didn't realize what the show was about, but what a great concept. And since I've known you, one thing I've known about you is you're always looking to find ways to add value to people. It doesn't matter what vehicle you choose. You always try and find the best insights or people that you know to try and provide insights to people in your community. So congratulations. I think it's a great initiative, and I'm honored to be your guest. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ron. And not only are you my guest, you're my first guest. So that's the added privilege.
Yeah, you didn't tell me that, so I had no idea before I jumped on this call that was going to be the case. But yes, I'm truly honored now. Thank you.
My pleasure. And this is all about you and everything, all the gold that you've got in your head, and just sharing that. And thanks for acknowledging the fact that I look to add value, because that's something that that I know that you focus on quite a bit as well, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of, and even though a lot of people see me as a money man, what a lot of people don't realize is that the reason I'm such an advocate of having money is because the more money you have, the more choices you have in life. Yes. And the more you have the ability to make a difference and have an impact. Lack of money does restrict good-hearted people from being able to make the impact that they want to make. So yes. It's really not about the money. It's about seeing the money as the vehicle through which we can have a positive impact in the world. And it's the unfortunate reality of life that you do need to have money because without resources, you can't make an impact. So yeah, absolutely. For me, money is what I do, but why I do it is to create value.
Wonderful. And look, I want to be touching on a few things that you mentioned there, especially around people having the belief system that money is the source of all evil. And no, if I have money in my life, I don't want to be chasing money. I want to be pursuing my passion and things like that. So I want to be touching on that. But let's start firstly, Ron, with a little bit about yourself. And if you can, for those of our viewers who don't know you and who haven't come across your book and your books and your content, tell us a little bit about you and what got you onto this journey.
Yeah, certainly. So I the way in my LinkedIn profile it says my life purpose is to inspire and empower people to thrive, and the way I do that is by teaching three concepts: influence, success, and wealth. They're my three concepts that I'm very, very passionate about. And the reason I like these three concepts is because they're the only three concepts I know that help people live an enlarged life and that helps them magnify their life. So I'm all about magnification. My underlying philosophy in life is that we're here to be more, do more, and have more. Okay. We're not here just to drift. We're not just here to only live into 5 or 10% of our potential. I firmly believe that human beings have the most potential out of all species. So we're here to be more, do more, and have more. And I feel that the three vehicles to accomplish that are influence, success, and wealth. Now, I also interestingly find that influence, success, and wealth have to be the most misunderstood concepts in the world. I'm absolutely convinced of this. And I've spent the last 17 and a half years in the money industry, and have had thousands of money conversations. I'm very privileged because I really get to know people at an intimate level. Money is a very personal subject, and when you talk about money, you inadvertently find out about people's thinking, their conditioning, their backgrounds, their value system. You find out about their fears, their concerns, and you find out about their aspirations. So really, I get a very good insight into how people think. And it's interesting. So I spent 17 and a half years talking to people about money and having thousands of conversations. But there was about, I think 7 or 8 years ago, I started to identify patterns in my conversations where I'd be talking to a person and I'd be able to see exactly where this person is going to end up and where they're coming from a financial perspective. It was like I was able to predict. And it was really interesting because I felt like I had this advanced perception. Just spending 10 minutes with the person, they would say certain things and I would be able to identify predictable patterns through which I could determine where this person is going to end up financially. Or I'd be able to predict before they told me about their assets, income, and liabilities. I'd be able to predict how they're traveling financially. I basically started to find similarities in how financially successful people think and act, and how people who are struggling think and act. That was the first time I started to make the connection between psychology and money. Prior to that, for me, money was just a strategy. You could buy investments, you could create strategies to make money, but it was the first time I made a connection between people's thinking and how much wealth or net worth they create.
Yeah.
So about that time, I started to then delve into traditional psychology just to identify if there was such a thing. And I delved into this subject called behavioral finance and then neuroeconomics. And then from there, I went into neuroscience and epigenetics, and then I got interested in spiritual studies and sociology, theology, philosophy, metaphysics. And I started to really get this sense that our psychology, most of it is unconscious, but it is dictating how we think, feel, and act. And this is having massive repercussions for how much money we end up creating in our lives. So I started to become a bit vocal about it, and I started to talk about at seminars about the link between how we think and the amount of money that we create. But I found that there was a bit of resistance in the beginning, because what's actually happened is, in the last 15 years, because of all the financial scandals that have occurred, and the examples of all the fat cat CEOs, and all the examples of these greedy men that have been responsible for corporate scandals that have resulted in suffering and misery of so many average people and job losses. What has happened is now we've got two groups of people in the Western world. We've got the pro-capitalist people, very business-oriented. They want to make money. They want to become successful. And then we've got a whole breed of people that are opting out because they have unfortunately adopted a misguided ideal that money is bad, because they've seen all these bad examples and they've seen all these greedy people. Unfortunately, a lot of these people have not realized that without money, you can't lead a dignified existence, and you are going to run out of options and choices, especially now, for the first time in the history of the world, where people are now living well into their 90s. So this problem is now further compounded. So one statistic says that in America, 100 million people are on food stamps. That's a quarter of their population. In Australia, about 80% of people retire with about $150,000 or less after an entire lifetime of work, and that's outside their family home. Now, the reason these statistics are disturbing in a way, but really fascinating in a way, because 8 out of 10 people that come to my office can become a millionaire on average to above average wage. And to me, it didn't make sense. 80% can have it, but only 10% get there. And I'm thinking, what's going on? What is the problem? Because it's not like we don't have the economic opportunities. It's not like we don't have the income to do it. It's not like we don't have the access to great investments, and it's not like the financial markets have not been unreliable. They've been extremely reliable.
Yeah.
What is going on? That's how I got interested in psychology, and that's how I got interested in personal development, because I wanted to study the workings of the mind. And I found that the very thing that gets people to repel money is the very thing that gets them to repel success. And it all happens unconsciously. So that's why I am today. People say, what do you do? And I go, look, I only do one thing, which is I find ways to empower people. And the three vehicles through which I empower people and I help them live a magnified life is influence, success, and wealth.
That's fantastic, Ron. Really, really, really. It's amazing because I know you for so many years, but that's probably the first time I actually understood. I connected the dots in a way. So no, that's really great to hear. So So, with what you do and why you do it, what have you noticed are some of the results that you have now started seeing with the people that you work with?
I just find that a lot of people use a lot of intellect in their life, but intellect is not sufficient. 90% of our decisions are habitual and unconscious.
Mm,
So, for example, if you grew up in an environment where you were told you're not that we don't talk about money, then what you're going to do is, growing up, you will always avoid money conversations.
yeah,
So, if you get into credit card debt or the bills are piling up, you're going to avoid confronting those issues
yeah,
because you've already been programmed to think that money's is we don't talk about money.
mm,
If you grew up in a household where there was scarcity and they said, well, money doesn't grow on trees, you are going to, for the rest of your life, aim small when it comes to
yeah,
financial decisions. You're not going to apply for a job that will pay you $1 million. You're going to apply for a job that will pay you an average wage or below average wage, and unconsciously your self-image will match that.
mm,
Right? You're not even going to think outside this way. We very rarely act outside of our own self-image.
mm,
Right? So if you've grown up in a household where you've been told that wealthy people are corrupt, you will automatically avoid financially successful people because in your mind there is a conscious you are already uncomfortable. So I ask a lot of people, if you went to a party and I introduce you to two people, here is Jack, and Jack is he's just a really nice guy next door, easygoing, approachable, and then here I've got a lady by the name of Rebecca, who is a billionaire,
yeah,
right? And Rebecca owns a many seven figure businesses. She drives a Maserati. Who would you more feel comfortable spending the evening with?
mm,
And the fact is, for vast majority of people who are not growth oriented, they will probably feel more comfortable with Jack.
mm.
They will automatically and unconsciously make a connection that she
Great.
must be judgmental, possibly
Yes.
arrogant, quite opinionated. It's not happening consciously. It's not that we consciously look at Jackie, Rebecca, and say, "Oh, well, that's what she's like." We will do it unconsciously, and we will find ways to avoid the person who we perceive to be financially successful, more financially successful than we are.
Mm,
There is something that needs to be examined here, and
yeah.
we do that because we have made an unconscious negative association with money,
Mm,
and your subconscious mind is responsible for your survival. So if it's responsible for your survival, its job is to keep you safe. It will not let you come into a possession that is going to make you a bad person. Not only that, it will turn down your awareness to any money opportunities and heighten your awareness to reinforce what you already believe. So if you believe that rich people are bad, it's going to keep showing you examples of that. If you think that there's scarcity of money in the world, it's going to keep pointing your attention to the scarcity. It
mm,
reinforces the belief system that you already have.
yeah.
This has massive repercussions. I'll tell you why.
Mm,
We have 40 years to get this right. If we're
yeah.
not getting this right, what's going to happen is we are not only going to fall back on the government system, we're also going to fall back on our children,
Yeah.
which is not really fair. And currently what happens is we don't see that as a bad thing. What we do is we go look at somebody who doesn't have money and we go, oh, poor guy doesn't have money or poor person doesn't have money, let's help them. But we go, why doesn't that person have money? Did they add enough value in the marketplace? Did they intend on creating wealth? Did
Yeah.
they plan for it? Did they educate themselves on creating wealth? And so we place no responsibility in the person. We start feeling sympathy and we go, well, we should just give them some money. And I'm being a good person because I'm helping them.
Yeah.
But it's not really helping because what's happening is all that's we're doing is we're reinforcing the poverty paradigm. We're reinforcing the scarcity paradigm and we're robbing this person of their dignity by giving them money.
Yes.
But people don't see it that way. So this is why slowly this problem is compounding more and more and more. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future because we've never had a time in the history of the world where people are going to live 30 or 40 years after retirement, where the income stops.
Yeah.
Depletion of human capital and depletion of financial capital all happening at the same time.
It's scary. It is it's definitely something that as you said, is unprecedented. And I think that's one of the reasons I thought it's really important to get somebody to start speaking to people, because from my own my experience, Ron, what I've noticed is not only is there there has this time been unprecedented where people are going to live for longer, they're not going to be able to have the income. but also I strongly feel that self-belief in people and their belief system around finance, personal wealth, things like that is slowly getting destroyed as well, especially with the larger masses. Would you agree?
There is a lot of negativity around money, and there's a lot of discomfort around money, and there's a lot of mistrust around money. And certainly the financial media doesn't help by constantly putting out sensational media around markets. I mean, the fact is that the markets have been extremely robust
Yeah.
in the last, if you can take the statistics back to the Great Depression, despite all the crashes and corrections and the wars and the terrorist attacks and all sorts of crises, the bird flu and the mad cow disease and the Brexit crisis and this crisis and the Trump crisis and the China crisis. There's a crisis every year for
Yeah.
some reason. The media just likes to sensationalize.
Of
Fact
course.
is that those who stayed invested and those who invested prudently to start with are today sitting on a gold mine.
Mm.
The rest are sitting on the sidelines, allowing their fears to dictate what they're going to do. And so that's why we can't. You can give a person all the best strategies, the best planning, the best investments. It doesn't mean they're going to stick to it if they haven't mastered their emotions first.
Yeah.
And that's why there is no point telling people invest here or invest there, or this is how you structure your planning and this is how you strategize your investments. There is no point because we're making an underlying assumption that that person's going to stick to this.
Yeah.
And they won't, because if their emotions drive them
Yeah.
and they don't understand the fundamentals of money, they are going to react every time there is a market movement, and they're going to behave irresponsibly, mainly through fear and greed.
Yes.
So
And
it doesn't matter. And that's
which
how
is
people blow up their wealth.
Yeah, and which is what we see. This is why Snapchat's stocks crashed, a few weeks ago, I think, and Facebook is now getting affected because people are getting affected by anything that comes up in the news. So no, I absolutely understand what you're saying. So let's talk then about a little bit about the working. If what you're saying is true, and if somebody needs to work on their mindset first, what are some of the things that they can do with their mindset around wealth and money today to start making a change?
I think the first thing is awareness. So it's just about asking yourself, how am I acting around money? And really starting to observe, how do I feel when I talk about money? Why am I not applying for money opportunities? Why am I uncomfortable around wealthy people? Why
Yeah.
do I think wealth is bad? Really examining those beliefs, 'cause especially if you're finding that you're working really hard for money, but you still can't seem to keep it, or you keep making bad decisions, there is something going on in your mind. Your mind is programmed for you to repel money. And once you are fighting a battle against your own mind, it is a very difficult battle to master, because your mind is literally there. And what it does is it inadvertently and unconsciously gets you to buy speculative investments, get into the wrong kinds of business partnerships, right? It does that because it doesn't want you to accumulate wealth. Because the mind is already programmed to believe that wealth is bad for me, so I've got to find ways to get rid of my wealth. Even if I come into money, I'll find ways to get rid of it. And that's why I think many years ago, I spoke to you about the research that says that lottery winners, when they come into money, 85% of them lose their wealth within the first
Yeah.
5 years.
Yeah. I was
And it doesn't
shocked
matter.
to hear that. Yeah.
And some cases have actually shown they've shown in Europe, the cases of people winning $300 million, like an absurd amount, and they still
Yeah.
get rid of it. They still find a way to lose that money. Because it's a bit like if I give you a small glass and I give you a big jug of water, and I say, let the glass represent a person's mind, and let the amount of water represent wealth. And I keep pouring this wealth into this small glass. The glass is going to fill up very quickly. And then as soon as it gets to the top, it's going to overflow, right? So it's not that there's an issue with how much water there is out there. There's a lot of water out there. The problem is people's glasses are small. So we've got to
Just
expand the
that's
glass
right.
first.
Yeah.
So the first step to that is having awareness. If you can't fix something that you're not aware of, if you're unconscious of it, you're not going to fix it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Second thing is to stop looking for reasons to validate why money is bad. You have to stop looking for you've got to stop looking. So if there is a TV scandal and somebody says, "Oh, this person, is sitting on $100 million and he's just exploiting this," yes, there's always going to be people. There's people who are bad and have money. There's people who are bad who have no money. But what we tend to do is we see a person with money doing the wrong thing, and do you know what we do? If we have a belief that money's bad, oh, look at them. See, that's what money does.
Yeah.
How do you know that's money? Money is just a magnifier.
Yeah.
Money makes a good person better. It makes a bad person worse. That's
Yeah.
all it does. So let's not blame the money. Let's blame the individual. If you're
Mm.
going to blame anyone, let's blame the individual. Let's not make money the enemy. So
Yeah.
start to create positive associations around money. One of the things I encourage people to do is write down 50 reasons why you must have money. 50,
Mm.
not one, not three, not five.
Mm.
50, because you're trying to create ammunition to reinforce why money is important, and have some reasons that go beyond you. Like most of your reasons should go beyond you. So I want to make a difference. I'd like to start a charity, right? I want to help my parents. I'd like to explore the world. I'd like to have best world-class mentors. I'd like to educate my kids. I may want to help my niece or my nephew. So when you start to put all of these sorts of reasons, what you're trying to do is you're making your shoulds. You're saying I shouldn't just have money. I must have money.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Second thing is start looking for examples of people who have money but are doing wonderful things with it.
Yeah.
So start to create positive associations around it, right? And thirdly, start to see yourself as a money person. Stop saying things like, I'm not a money person, or stop thinking that.
Mm.
Money is, as I said, it's just an enabler. It will enable you to do things that you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't have money, it doesn't matter what your intentions are. The world is, as they say, the road to hell is paved with people with great intentions.
Great intentions,
Intentions don't matter. All that matters is, can you take your intentions and make them reality?
Yeah.
And money and resources will enable you to do that. So start to create positive associations around it.
Awesome. Love that, Ron. So those are some tips that you're suggesting with regards to changing one's mindset. What about some strategies that people can implement starting, say, today, to get them on that path to what everyone, the oasis called financial freedom?
Yeah. So I think first thing, we've got to define financial freedom or wealth.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the best definition is, it's the ability for us to fund our chosen lifestyle without having to work.
Yeah.
If you can fund your chosen lifestyle without having to work, you're financially independent. Right? So
Yes.
even if you're not financially independent now, you must make it a priority, because here is the thing. Unless you're planning on working until the day you die, and you don't want to have a choice of being able to pull back from the workforce, then don't plan your future. But if at some point you'd like the option, I'm not saying you have to stop working. I mean, you may love your job and you may decide, I don't want to stop working until my 70s or 80s.
Yeah.
But what if you do? It'll be nice to have the option, right? What if you
Yeah.
get sick? What if your spouse is sick? Right? What if your parents need you? What if your family needs you? And you are now in a position where you're not financially independent, so you can't get away. Would you want to be in that position? So find a reason to make financial freedom a priority.
Yes.
So define it. And the definition is not having a Lamborghini, or it's not having a mansion. The definition of financial freedom is the ability to be able to fund your chosen lifestyle without having to work, without being forced into work. Okay?
Yes.
Also, you also must realize financial freedom allows us to pursue our hobbies and things that we really feel aligned with. Like if I love certain things, I need to have time for it. Money buys me time. If I don't have money, I will not be able to get away from my job to be able to do the things that inspire me and that fulfill my soul. Like, I'm very lucky that my occupation revolves around my passion, but for a lot of people, it doesn't. So if your passion sits outside of your work, you must become financially independent so you can put more time into that passion.
Yeah.
The second thing is understand the difference between lifestyle assets and investment assets. So your home is not going to make you wealthy. I don't care what people say. Your home is not a lifestyle asset, even if it goes up in value. The only way you can extract money out of your home is through selling the home.
Yeah.
So stop thinking that by constantly plunging money into your home and paying off your mortgage, you're becoming wealthy. You're not. Because, and one of the things that people say, oh, but if I just sell my house at retirement, well, you're still going to need a place to live in, right?
Yeah.
And it only works if your home is 2 or 3 times the average median price of the location that you stay in. Because if you don't, like, for example, you own a house for 800,000 in Melbourne, and you're going, well, you know what, that's my retirement plan. Really? When you retire, you still need a place to live. So what are you going to do? Oh, I'll sell it and I'll downsize. Okay, you're going to downsize in Melbourne, but your home price is hovering around the median price. So where are you going to go? And after you've paid the bank and after you've paid the agent, and are you really going to have enough money for your future? The strategy of putting everything into your home and then selling it at retirement only works if your home value is 2 or 3 times the average median price.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't work. Most people are. I don't know if you know the word mortgage in Latin means until death.
Until that, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
reason.
It's a contract you
So
write for until you die.
that's right. So
Yeah.
we're not saying don't buy a home. We're saying just don't delude yourself into believing that you're becoming wealthy because you've got a home.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't buy it. I'm saying buy it, but please don't think you're becoming wealthy by buying a home, because when you stop working, that home, even if you paid off the mortgage,
Mm.
you still need to pay council rates, water rates, insurances,
Yeah.
maintenance. It never puts $1 in your pocket.
True.
Yeah. So understand the difference between lifestyle assets and investment assets. Lifestyle assets, things like your home, your car, your electronics, your golf equipment, your jewelry, all of these things do not put money in your pocket. It doesn't matter how much you've got in there. If the definition of wealth is the ability to fund your chosen lifestyle, you have to have assets that provide you with an income.
Yes.
And lifestyle assets do not provide you with an income. So you must have investment assets.
Mm.
Now, here is the problem. Most people do not understand the difference between speculating and investing. Yeah, so speculating is high risk. Speculating is like gambling. But a lot of
Yeah.
people, like Bitcoin, for me personally, it just doesn't have the proven fundamentals.
Okay.
No matter what anyone says, how much money they've made, people go, "Oh, I made a lot of money. My friends made money, so it must be good."
Mm.
That way, then even Russian roulette must be good, because a lot of people have made money on that,
Yeah.
right? If you apply that fundamental.
Mhm.
So people, you have to spend time learning about investing and speculating. And I'll give you the 4 laws, irrefutable laws of money. And I love laws and principles because principles and laws do not change.
Don't change. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Like gravity is a law.
Mm.
It doesn't matter whether you're in Sri Lanka or you're in Germany or you're in Belgium or you're in Australia. If you jump from the 10th floor, you're always going to come down. You're not going to go up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman. It doesn't matter if you're 30 or you're 50. It's a law.
Yeah.
There are some laws of money, and we must understand that. So there's 4 in particular, 4 laws of money. And if you're in breach of any one of them, you will suffer the consequences financially. I didn't make these rules. I'm just communicating these rules. So please don't get mad at me for saying this.
No.
There are
I
4 laws of
promise
money.
not to. Yeah.
Number 1, not rocket science. Spend less than you earn.
Yeah.
If you spend everything that you earn, or you spend more than you earn, you've got a problem. Simple.
Yeah.
You can't fix it by negative gearing or buying some properties and borrowing some money. You're not going to be able to fix this problem. Second is pay yourself first. This is fundamentally the most important rule of money.
Yes.
Paying yourself first means, what most people do is they go, okay, I'm getting paid. Let me pay my bills. Let me buy my groceries. Let me pay the tax man. Let me pay this person. By the time you've paid everybody, you will never have money for yourself.
Yeah.
You won't. And when I say for yourself, I mean for your future.
Mm.
So you make it a priority that as soon as the paycheck comes in, you take 10% of your salary and you put it into a future bucket where you cannot touch that money.
Mm.
You must do this. And that's paying yourself.
Yeah.
Because every time we don't pay ourselves and we give everyone priority over us, we also send a subliminal message to our subconscious mind that I'm not worth it.
Yes.
I'm the last one.
Yes. That does make
And
sense.
you know who does this? The people that are the biggest culprits with this are self-employed people.
Yeah, tell me about it. I used to be guilty until we had this conversation a couple of years ago, but I was absolutely guilty of doing the same thing myself.
Yeah. And it's hard because here is the problem. If business people go, when I make money, I'll put it in. No, the problem is if you don't put it in, you will not make the money.
Yes.
So I actually get some of my clients to type up a bill and put their name on it and go, here's $200 and it needs to go in here. It's funny how we will always find money to pay an electricity bill. No matter what our salary, we will always find money to pay for electricity. But when it comes to putting money in our future, we never have it.
Yeah.
It's almost like we need a bill posted to us every month going, okay, here's the time that you've got to pay this bill.
Yeah.
So whatever works for you, maybe draft
Like
a bill.
a program that way. Yeah.
So maybe get a friend to type up a bill, address your name and put your name and address, send it to you every week or every month, and money comes out. I get my clients to set up an automatic debit.
Yes.
Every week and I go, I say to clients, can you live on 90% of your salary? Oh no, it's too hard, Ron. So I go, Mr. Client, here, can I ask you a question? And they go, yes. If you cannot live on 90% of your salary today, how are you going to live on 30% of your salary in the future?
Mm. Nice one. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to find a way. And here is the problem. People go, I'll save when I have more money. That
Yeah.
is a trap. Because I have people in their 40s and 50s, and I go, how many pay rises have you had in your life? And they go, 10, 6, 8, whatever it is. Can you
Yeah.
save money now? No.
Mm.
Because what humans tend to do is we're creatures of habit. As our income goes up, our expenses go up to match. Income goes up, expenses go up. We can look at our own lives and go, we couldn't save money in our 20s, we couldn't save money in our 30s, we couldn't save money in our 40s unless we set the disciplines,
Yeah.
right? So paying yourself first is the second law of money. The
Yeah.
third law of money is make your money work for you. Don't
Yes.
just work for money. If you are working for money, you are guaranteed to fail.
Mm.
If your money is not if you're not putting money to work for you today, you will have nothing to work in the end.
It
So
reminds me of
invest prudently.
that Warren Buffett and a quote. I think it says he says, "If you don't find a way for money to make money while you sleep, you'll work until you die."
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's why, and most people are not going to do it. And so there has to be a sense of urgency around it. It has to become a must.
Yeah.
As long as it's a shoot, believe me, I've been doing this for, if you're watching me and if you're listening to me, if you can see me, believe me, after having thousands of conversations, 17 years of having money conversations, believe me when I say this to you,
Yeah.
you're not going to do it. I'm not being negative. I'm telling you human behavior. I've seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
If you don't make it an absolute priority, you're not going to do it. Make wealth in your top 3 priorities. It is not going to happen otherwise. If money was, and for some weird reason, money is so counterintuitive as a subject, most people can't get it right.
Yeah.
And can I just also say, I mean, this is very interesting. By the way, just people should know that the definition of rich kicks in at 500 million. So please don't think if you end up at 5 million, you're going to be rich. You're not. In fact, if your net worth is between 1 and 3 million outside your family home, today you're considered comfortable poor.
That's wow. I think that's going to be a surprise for quite a few people.
I know, because I was on a plane with a couple and they were sitting next to me, and the gentleman was next to me and his wife was sitting on the window seat. And I was reading a book, and she said, "Oh, I'm writing a book." And I said, "Well, why don't you publish it?" And she said, "I don't have any money. We can barely feed our kids." And she said, "What do you do?" I said, "Look, I'm a financial advisor, and I help people, and I help average people create at least $1 million to $9 million in net worth." And this gentleman, he was on the iPad playing video games, and he put his head up and he goes, "We don't want to be millionaires."
Yeah.
It was almost like he felt like, and I'm going, "You're kidding me." She just told me,
Yeah.
"Your kids are starving." She's telling me that you could sometimes. She's telling that her passion is to publish a book and she hasn't got money. And you're already saying to me that you don't want to be millionaires because you think $1 million is a lot of money. That's your problem right there. You've completely got this wrong, buddy.
Yeah.
And you are now doing a disservice to your own family.
Either that or he thinks that millionaires are bad people.
Whatever, but exactly, but you don't want to be millionaires. So it's bizarre, and I just felt like saying, don't worry, buddy, you're not going to be rich because you have $1 million,
Yeah.
right? You'll still be challenged to make that money last in your entire lifetime. You'll be very, very challenged because you're pulling out $40,000-$50,000 in the Western world each year. It's only 10-15 years that the money is going to last when you stop working.
True.
So we have to really start to understand this, and we have to understand that it's not greed to want to be comfortable and to ensure that you never run out of money. It's not greed.
Yes.
So, and the fourth rule of money, so after we said third rule is to make money work for you, and that means investing prudently. Please do not speculate, gamble with your money, and saving is not investing. Big difference. You have to, it's not in the scope of this conversation for me to explain the difference between speculating and investing and saving and investing. But I can just say to you right now, if you're just putting money in a bank account or a term deposit or fixed, you're not investing. You're just saving. You're scared. So the fourth rule of money is to protect yourself, your family, and your assets, meaning give consideration to asset protection, insurances. Don't skimp on those things. If you don't find money for it today, you're going to have to come up with money for it tomorrow when things go wrong. So there are the 4 rules. Spend less than you earn, pay yourself first, make your money work for you, and protect yourself, your family, and your assets. Anyone that breaches any of these 4 rules will inadvertently find themselves not having enough money and falling back either on the government system or on their family for support. So if you don't want that, you have to get these 4 principles right.
Absolutely love it. Thanks for that, Ron. That was really good. Okay, so Let's also talk about, and this is a question that someone posted in our Life by Design group, about maybe some tips or some investment ideas or strategies that people can implement. Once again, today, if they make it a priority and they start applying the four core principles of wealth. So, what are some of the tips and strategies that people can apply to get on that investment?
Yep. I think your audiences may get a bit frustrated. So first of all, I will probably say that anything that I share is general information. I'm not
Yeah,
actually allowed to give advice because everyone's situation is different. So your income's different, your objectives are different, so your
of
tax
course.
situation is different. So what works for me may not work for you,
Yeah,
right? But in general, if you're going to invest to create wealth, and let's just assume that you understand the difference between speculating and investing and saving and investing, and you decided to invest,
yeah,
pick assets that have, number one, a proven track record, right?
yeah,
So, for example, you've got two options. One option says like you can make 10%, and this investment's been around for 5 years. This investment says you can make 8%, but it's been around for 100 years. And it's got a long-term track record. Pick that.
yeah,
Second thing, pick investments that give you all three: growth, income, and tax benefits.
hmm,
So if you have a long-term time horizon, meaning that you're not going to need to sell this investment at least for the next 15 years, pick investments that give you all three, not just one or two or three. Buy things that will give you growth, income, and tax benefits. So depending on what country you're in, you'll typically find that investments will be able to do that. So there are some investments that will either just give you growth. So if somebody bought a vintage car, for example, I've got a great investment on, it's a vintage car.
yeah,
It could be an investment, but is it going to give you an income? No. Is it going to give you tax benefits? No. What it may give you is growth. It may grow up in value. So I would avoid it. Wine collection, same thing. Putting money in a bank account, you may get an income, but you may not get tax benefits and growth. So the two great investments that will give you those three, if you choose well, and again, this doesn't mean that you should go out and just buy what I'm saying. Real estate that gives you all three. So give considerations to where you're buying. Is there infrastructure spending, access to medical facilities, education facilities, and is the population growing? And is there signs of gentrification which would indicate that there is income moving into the area?
yeah,
If you consider all of that and you look at the macro economy as a whole, and then you look at how much money you're borrowing, you never want to borrow too much, you never want to borrow too less. You've got a sweet spot. But again, my caveat is you only do this if you have at least 14 years plus before you're going to need to sell this investments. You never do it for the short term.
yeah,
The other one is, of course, you can buy stocks and shares. But there are three reasons why people lose money on stocks and shares. Number one, they panic and sell. Every time there's a correction or a crash, they think the world's coming to an end and they sell.
yeah,
The second reason is they're forced to sell because they don't have appropriate cash buffers in place. And the third biggest reason why people lose money on stocks and shares is because they do not know how to spread and diversify their money properly. Ideally, you want to construct a portfolio of good quality businesses that are diversified at the geographical level, at the industrial level, and at the size level, meaning mid cap, small cap, and large cap. If you're able to orchestrate that and hold just the right number of shares, you can make money. But again, this is something that you have to either learn and acquire the skill, or you have to go to somebody that has the skill, because a lot of people are advocates of, you should do it yourself. You know what? It's taken me over 10 years to learn what I've learned. I just don't understand how people can. Of course, there's a lot of people who want to sell books and tell you, like when I wrote my book, I actually made it very clear. This is the 8 wealth habits of financially successful people. I didn't say you should go and do this yourself.
yes,
There are some things I absolutely advocate in that DIY. For example, you can cut your own hair. You stuff it up. At worst, you live bad for 2 weeks. Right? If you want to fix your door handle, you can do it yourself. You stuff it up, lose $50, $100.
yeah,
But there are certain things you should not do yourself unless you've got the skill. For example, you don't do heart surgery on yourself. The consequences are a bit severe if you get it wrong. You don't pull out your own teeth.
yeah,
And I would honestly say managing and investing prudently for a 15 or 20 year time frame, I would, and I know people are going to think I'm being biased. I put it in the same category. Because if it was so easy, then why is it that vast majority of people get it wrong?
True.
So I would say to people, make this a habit. Put a small percentage of the salary that you make towards financial planning. And that time that you're spending and you think you want to spend, put that in your career, your family, and your health. It will give you much bigger dividends, and outsource it to a trusted professional who can look after you. But you got to know why you're doing it. You still got to have control. Like, I'm not saying give up control. I'm saying delegate and manage it that way.
Yeah.
And there's some good professionals out there. And there are, in my book, I actually talk about how to find a good professional and how to differentiate a salesperson from a suitably qualified professional.
Qualified professional, yeah. So we're starting to get some questions in, Ron. So I've got a question from Paul Hutchison. Now, Paul asks, one second, let me just get to it. Yep. What advice would you give people who wish to transition to self-employment?
It's a great question. Actually, I'm actually encouraging people to look at self-employment as a model. And the reason for that is we are moving towards an economy where increasing trends relating to outsourcing and automation means that in most industries, there's going to be downward pressure on wages and increased job insecurity. And so for that reason, I do believe, and it's the first time in the history of the world now, we have a market that is globally connected through the internet.
Yes.
The model of entrepreneurship that I like the best is thought leadership. And the reason I like that is because thought leadership simply means taking a smart idea and creating a movement or a business or an empire around that idea. It's not for everybody, of course, but the reason I like thought leadership model is because you don't need plant, you don't need equipment, you don't need lots of staff members, you don't need premises. You can now, there are many, many examples in the world of people creating 7-figure businesses with just one employee. And that's what I love about the thought leadership model. Now, of course, thought leadership means that you must have some sort of an expertise. You must have the willingness to stand out. You must have the willingness to influence. And you have the ability, or you acquire the skills to create intellectual property, product, and solutions around that expertise. If that's not your domain, then you might have to look at the traditional entrepreneurship path. But if you're employed and you don't have a lot of cash reserves behind you, the best way to do it is to work in your job. So you work in your job 9 to 5, spend time with your children, have your dinner, and then get to work on your business from 10 o'clock at night to 1 in the morning. And do that for the next 2 years. And business has a number of components. It first of all starts with what problem are you trying to solve? Whose problem are you trying to solve? How do you solve that problem? So what product solution do you have? Make sure you master at least the fundamentals of marketing, because marketing, you will get to a point where 50% of your business function should be marketing.
Yeah.
Become very good at sales. Sales is the number one business skill. If you cannot sell, you're going to have problems.
Yeah.
Learn leadership so you can attract people and grow people. And leadership is a difficult one, and it's a lifetime of learning, but start learning those things.
Yeah.
Right? So, and of course, there are things that you also need to learn about business finances. You need to learn about operations. But entrepreneurship, I believe, the thing between traditional employment and entrepreneurship is traditional employment can take a long time to accumulate wealth.
Yeah.
I call traditional employment the slow road to wealth, if you get there at all. Self-employment is the fast road, the superhighway to wealth. But where do you think people have more crashes? On the superhighway. That's because if you put an incompetent driver, even if it's in the best car, you can put an incompetent driver in a Ferrari and you put them on a freeway where they're doing 120 k's an hour. That's a disaster waiting to happen.
Yes.
So the first thing you do is you train the person to drive the car. Now, there's a lot of people out there today that are advocating self-employment for everybody, and they're making it look super easy. So you got pictures and images of men and women sitting in bikinis in the beach with the laptop and telling you how much money they're making. I tell you, either those people have worked very, very hard and they're not telling you that they have worked hard, or they're just bullshitting you. Because yes. I mean, I've built 3 businesses and I know that it requires a tremendous amount of work. So find something that you're passionate about, because otherwise you're going to quit when it gets tough. And it does get tough. And whatever you think is going to happen in business is going to take longer than you think. It's going to be more difficult than you think. Right? And it's going to cost you more than you think. So when I do my business analysis, or I look at how much money it's going to cost me to do anything, I double it and add another 50%. Because for some weird reason, you can ask any business person, whatever you expect is going to happen with expenses, it always tends to be more than that. So you got to have at least 6 months worth of your income saved up. You must have a strong plan and strategy. And if you're not going to pump a lot of money into business in the beginning, you must pump a lot of time into it. It's either time or money. But business is a fantastic vehicle for to make wealth. But learn about it. Like, don't just jump into it without learning about it. And I think that's what I'm finding. A lot of people are just quickly jumping in and thinking that it's going to be easy.
Well, yeah, and another question that we've just got is what about online sources of income, like multi-level marketing and selling things on Amazon and things like that, as a side income?
I'm 100%. I'm a big fan of those things, and I absolutely advocate it for people who don't have a lot of money, can't see very good career prospects for themselves, and not really inclined to start a business from scratch.
Yeah.
Multi-level marketing or network marketing offer very good opportunities for people like that to supplement their income.
Yes.
Just one of the things you need to understand is mindset is really important in network marketing. You've got to stay positive, because your rejections are going to outweigh the number of people that are going to say yes. You must believe in the product or service with absolute conviction. You must love what you're doing, right? And third, you must be very comfortable in consultative form of selling. So you've got to learn consultative selling, which is not like pushy selling and convincing people. It's really inviting people. It's having a conversation. It's finding out their needs. And then it's offering a solution where it's appropriate. So consultative selling skills and professional selling skills will be very, very handy. But absolutely, yes, I believe that network marketing and multi-level marketing are great solutions for people on incomes who don't see business prospects for themselves to supplement their income.
Awesome. Ron, another question that we keep getting quite often in the group is how much money. So let's say I retire by what's the retirement age these days?
Look, it doesn't really matter what retirement age. I mean, the official retirement age in Australia is 67, but the average retirement age in Australia is 58.
50.
So just because it's the official doesn't mean people are going to want to work that long.
Yeah.
You must allow for some possibilities. And if you're young today, you probably can't see this. Here are some of the possibilities that might get you to quit the workforce a bit earlier than you would like. A bad boss happens a lot, right? You get an incompetent boss, gives you grief. You go, stuff this. I'm not going to deal with it. 2, illness. Fact of life, it happens. And as we get older, a probability, and I know it sounds like doom and gloom, but guys, I'm not here to give you doom and gloom. I'm here to tell you the facts of life. And it's not that you stop and you start worrying, but you start to prepare for some of these things that may happen. So illness is another one. The third one is illness of spouse. It's a big, big reason.
Yes.
If you may not get sick, what if your spouse has an accident or sickness and you go, oh, no, I can't, I've got to work tomorrow. Here they are staying, they're in bed and they're in pain and they need to be provided for. And you're going, oh, I've got to work tomorrow. Would you like to be in that position? Just try and foresee that position happening, right? These are the facts of life. And I've seen so many clients go through this sort of stuff.
So let's say, I was going to say,
no, go on.
I was going to say, let's say there's a young guy watching this. He's in his late 20s and he's like, all right, you know what? I want to be in a position where by the age of 50, I retire, right? And I want to continue living the rest of my life comfortably with my partner, etc. How much money should I have at that point to feel comfortable?
Yeah. So what you have to do is you have to understand that the biggest way to measure wealth is not income, it's net worth. And net worth, the simple calculation of net worth is assets minus liabilities. So you look at all of the assets, but take out your family home from that. Take out your car, because your home and your car are not income producing assets. So we're talking about income producing assets minus your liabilities is your net worth.
Yes.
So first thing you've got to do is you've got to have a net worth target for when you want to stop working or you want the option to stop working.
Yeah.
You've got to have a target. And how we determine that target is, so I'm just going to, let's just say you Trevor, let's just say you come to me as a client.
Yes.
And you and your wife say, you know what, Ron, we would like to have the option to be able to step back from the workforce in 20 years' time. We may work, but we want to travel and just spend time with kids and grandkids. So you know what, in 20 years' time, I'd like the option to retire. So my first question would be, how much money do you spend today?
Yes.
So I look at your budget and I ascertain that after tax, and if you didn't have a mortgage, you're spending $63,000 per annum. So I ask you a simple question. Do you like your lifestyle now? And you said yes. Is it comfortable? And you said yes. I said, well, then you're going to need the equivalent of 63,000 in 20 years' time.
Okay.
And what we do is we work out the future value of that 63,000 using a financial calculator.
Yes.
So with inflation, depending on what country you live in, if you apply the inflation rates, let's just say 63,000 in 20 years' time, 83,000 is what you need, which is going to be the equivalent of 63,000. Now, if you stop working at 60 and your life expectancy is 90 plus, I want to make sure you never run out of money.
Mm.
So my question then becomes, what does the size of your net worth need to be? That if the money is just making 5%, it gives you $83,000 each year, every year, from the day you stop working, for as long as you live, in a way that the money never runs out and keeps up with the cost of living.
Yes.
Now, this is a complex calculation. You need a financial calculator for it. But
Yeah.
if you have retirement funds or mutual funds, sometimes they give you an estimate of what you need based on your superannuation balances. I don't believe it's accurate because it doesn't take into consideration how you live. Some
Okay.
people are comfortable on 60,000 a year. Some people need 80,000 a year. Some people need 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
It all comes down to your lifestyle. But that's how you've got to work out the future value. One biggest mistake that people make is they go, I need 50,000 today, but I'm not going to stop working for another 20. I'll stop working in 20 years. So they aim for 50,000, not realizing that in 20 years' time, that 50,000 may only buy 25,000 worth.
Yes.
So you've got to factor in inflation. Very important.
Excellent. All right. Wonderful. Well, Ron, I think that we're about done with time. But is there any final words that you'd like to leave the viewers with, and anyone else who's going to be watching the recording in the future? Anything else that you want to leave them with? This is your chance, by the way, to plug any upcoming book or anything else that you're going to be doing.
I've actually finished a draft for a book called The Wealth Answer. So The Wealth Answer is actually a very comprehensive guide on exactly how wealth is created. But listen, there is no shortage of knowledge there, and there is certainly no shortage of opportunities. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to make wealth your top 3 priorities. And that's why I recommend that you must write down 50 reasons why you must have wealth, and try and make it not non-egotistical reasons, and have assign some meaning to them that go beyond you, because you'll have the incentive to go after it. Otherwise, you won't go after it. You'll have negative associations. And the second thing is, have some sort of a plan, make it a priority. You know, a lot of people make health their priority, make their family their priority, peace of mind their priority. Money is one of those main pillars of life. You can't afford to neglect it. Without money, you won't have the peace of mind. You won't be able to spend time with family. And believe me, health, organic food, nutrition, all of these things cost a lot of money. So without money, you'll find that a lot of the